Okay, we're under the hood of our 2021 Ram 6.7 Cummins. This EZX module, SKU 32710, is applicable for the 2019 through 2022 model years. This works in both the standard and the high output applications. To start our installation, we're first going to disconnect our negative battery terminal. We can do this with a 10mm socket on a ratchet. Get this one disconnected, and we'll move over to our passenger side battery and disconnect it as well. Okay, with both negative battery terminals disconnected, we can now start to install our EZX wiring harness. And while this may look a little bit daunting at first, there are just 5 connections we need to make, and these are 100% plug and play connections. So everything piggybacks right into factory connectors using factory style connections. So this is actually very straightforward. You just need to go through the install one by one. We're going to start by placing our main harness right here next to our fuse box so that we can make sure we route everything to the right locations. The first one we're going to work with is our MAF sensor, which goes over to the passenger side of the truck at the air intake. Lay this across the engine and work our way over there. The first harness we're going to install will be located here at the mass airflow sensor, or the MAF sensor. This is the second one back on the air intake, so it's closest to the cab. We need to undo the gray keeper located on the bottom side of the connector, and then you can depress it to unplug. Then we will use our harness that came with the EZX and basically piggyback into that factory location. Press one end into the sensor, make sure you connect the keeper, and then the other end of the harness can be plugged in. Wait for it to snap, and again make sure you close that keeper. And then we will zip tie this out of any hot locations or any moving parts to make sure it stays safe once we're complete with the rest of the install. To install our connection at the factory map sensor, we need to disconnect this sensor that's located here on the back of the factory intake air horn that's here on the driver's side of the engine. This one does not have a keeper on it, so it's easy to disconnect. You basically just have to press down on the tab on the back side of the connector to pull it loose. And then on the other end of our EZX harness, we'll find the connector that will plug into that specific sensor. You'll notice it here, and it works just like our previous sensor. One end will plug into the factory sensor. Make sure you connect it and hear it click. And then the other end of the EZX harness will plug into your factory engine control harness. Hear it click, letting you know we've made solid contact. Alright, right here up on top of the engine, the rail pressure sensor is located right down here behind this rubber isolator. You can see the yellow keeper on that pigtail right down in there. So to gain access to this, we're going to disconnect this connector and remove the Christmas tree off of the firewall to give it some room, so this is out of the way. And then we'll use a pick tool to reach down into that yellow keeper, and then we can reach our hand down in there to disconnect that rail pressure sensor and plug in our new EZX harness connection. Disconnect this main harness here, sliding and rolling. Disconnect that. Again, undo this Christmas tree that holds it in place, and we're able to move this harness out of our way to get a little more access with our hand. Alright, using a small pair of needle nose pliers or a pick tool, you can disconnect that keeper on the rail pressure sensor, and then you'll be able to reach your hand in to disconnect that harness. And we can now connect our EZX pigtails. Again, one end will connect into the factory engine harness. Make sure you hear that click and depress your safety clip to keep it connected. And then the other end of the EZX harness will plug direct into the factory rail pressure sensor. All right, now with our rail pressure sensor connected, we're going to move on to the wiring that needs to run into the cab of the truck. You can see we'll have two connections inside the cab. This is for our accelerator pedal position, and then this is where we get onto our CAN bus line. To make this easier, so we don't have to pass these large connectors through the firewall, we've got this simple, smaller 6-pin connector that needs to be fed through the firewall, and this will be going through a grommet where the shift cable runs through. So you'll need to use a small knife, an X-Acto or razor blade to make a small slit just big enough that we can pass this one 6-pin connector through the firewall into the cab. All right, so here we are in the cab of the truck where we've made our slit in our shift cable grommet here. We were able to pretty easily slip our in-cab harness that has our accelerator pedal connector and our CAN bus line connector here. It's easiest if you pass it through the engine or through the cab of the truck into the engine bay, where we can make that 6-pin connector on the other side. So that will go back under the hood of the truck, make that connection, and then we can make our other connections here on the floorboard. All right, here on the floorboard, we're going to connect our accelerator pedal sensor. This is the black sensor located on the driver's side of the pedal. We're going to push our thumb to depress the tab, and you can easily disconnect. Then we can connect our EZX harness to the factory engine harness. And then the other end will plug directly into the pedal itself. Depress the keeper to keep it intact. And then our CAN bus line will connect to this green motherboard that's located here on the inside driver's side panel. So you'll be laying on your back on the floor of the pickup truck, and you can look up and see this tucked up under the dash. Our connector will just need to be plugged into one of the open spaces on that green motherboard above the other connectors that are already there. We're just going to add one to that series. From this angle here, you can see where our black wiring harness has been routed up under the dash of the truck and plugged into that green board there. Again, you can plug into any of the open circuits there on the left side of that board where the 2-prong connections could be made. All right, the last couple connections we need to make with the EZX will be right here near the battery. First, we're going to plug in our EZX module into the harness, making sure it makes that click to secure it, and then this will be mounted up on the fuse panel back here on by the firewall. The last connection we're going to make is this red power wire that we're going to route up through the inside of this red isolator on our positive battery terminal. Like so. And then we're going to connect it here to the battery post. There. Socket. Remove the nut. We will install our power wire. Place the nut back on the post. It is worth noting that this module, while we are pulling some power from the battery here, it is not going to pull enough to ever give you a dead battery situation. We're just making sure that the module has enough power on the Bluetooth device that's within it so that it can connect to your smartphone app anytime. But there is not enough current draw to affect the vehicle in any way. So with those connections made and our EZX box mounted to our fuse panel, we can reconnect our negative battery posts. Make sure those are secured tightly. Make sure to remember to go over and do the passenger side as well. Now all of our connections are completed. We can use the supplied zip ties to make sure we go and tuck away any wiring harnesses away from moving parts or heat sources. And then we can move into the cab and start going through the setup with the steering wheel controls to adjust our power levels. And then we can also connect our app for the first time so that we can start making our feature controls from our smartphone. All right, so with the EZX installed under the hood of the truck, all the connections have been made. We've gone ahead and turned the ignition to the run position without starting the engine, and we're going to open up and connect our EZX app. We're going to do that by first installing the app on our phone. It is available through the App Store, through iOS and Android applications. We're going to go ahead and open up our EZX app here. It's going to search for the module. This first time we make connection, we need to be within 1 foot of the module to make sure that the Bluetooth can make a secure connection, and it will pair our smartphone with the module under the hood. Once this first connection is done, we'll be able to do all of our interface with the module from in the cab of the truck. We don't need to be this close to the module once we're paired. So you can see our app has found the module, located it. It is now setting up with the vehicle. So we've now got our smartphone app open here and available to scroll through since we've now paired the device. We can click on the hamburger menu up here in the top left, and it will show us our device info. So it shows us the serial number, the firmware, and all the information about the module that's under the hood. If you ever need to update that module, it all can be done right here through the smartphone app in the future. So just for a little better filming ability, we're going to go into the cab now and walk through the feature set of the app itself. All right, so we've moved into the cab of the truck so we can walk through our smartphone app. Here you can see all of the feature sets that are available for this 19 to 22 Cummins. We can not only adjust our power levels through our steering wheel controls, so when our cruise control is turned off, we're able to use our resume and set buttons to turn those power levels up and down. You can also control the power levels through the app by pressing the power level button, which opens up this subset menu. And you can see where it will show us what power level we're in. Right now it's currently in power level 5, indicated by the bars. We can change those power levels just by pressing in the app. Obviously our lit up bars will change. The other nice thing with the app is that we can go in and change our throttle pedal sensitivity for each individual power level just by pressing the edit button to the side, which brings up our throttle pedal sensitivity menu, and we can go ahead and set that pedal sensitivity to whichever you prefer for your driving style. So we've got our soft pedal at economy, we've got drive, sport, performance, and the extreme, obviously just increasing how touchy that throttle pedal feels. So every driver prefers one a little bit different. You can go in and set the same pedal sensitivity in every power level, or you can have that sensitivity increase with your power levels. The default is just power level 1 will be the economy pedal, power level 2 is the drive pedal, and so on and so on. So in our power level 5, the default is set at the extreme pedal. Some guys may find that that extreme pedal sensitivity is too touchy, and you can simply go in and change that to turn it down a little bit into the sport pedal or even the drive mode, so you can fine-tune that driving experience for yourself. We can also go in and calibrate for tire size. So here we can go in and select what size our tire is. To make sure we get the most accurate reading on our speedometer, we want to make sure we measure the height of our tire. Don't go off what's printed on the tire itself. Get a tape measure out and measure the height, because very rarely will a 35-inch tire actually be 35 inches once it's mounted and balanced and on the truck. So this is still a factory tire truck, so we don't need to make any changes here. But should you make changes to your truck running a 35-inch or a 37-inch tire, whatever it is, you can go in and use these plus or minus buttons to find that correct tire size for your application. Once that's been done, you'll just need to go ahead and select the update tire size, and that will send the signal into the module and into your vehicle so that your speedometer will read correctly for your tire size. If you find using a GPS that you're still off a little bit, you can always go in and modify this tire size to get it as accurate as possible. But measuring that tire height with a tape measure should get you as close as anything will. We can also modify our gear ratio if you've changed your ring and pinions because of the larger tires. We also have the ability to go in and control our TPMS, or our tire pressure settings. We can change those factory defaults. So if you've installed an aftermarket set of wheels and tires, we can go in and change that threshold. So if you're running lower pressure in your tires because they're a load range D or whatever it might be, if you like running lower than factory, you know, not everybody likes to run at 80 pounds of pressure in their tires, so we can go in and set that threshold much lower for the front and the rear independently, so you can run them at different. You can also get right here and you can disable the system altogether. So if you've installed an aftermarket set of wheels and tires, you can turn it completely off if you did not opt to put sensors in your aftermarket set of tires. Again, you'll have to make sure you push update at the end to make sure that those get sent into your vehicle. Our button recall, this is simply an on and off setting, but basically what this does is by pressing it, when it's activated in green, that means this setting is enabled. And what this does, this is going to remember our tow haul mode and our exhaust brake modes every time we shut the truck off. So if you're someone that does a lot of towing and you have the exhaust brake engaged and you stop for fuel, in some applications, when you shut the truck off and turn it back on, your exhaust brake is no longer engaged. So the button recall feature just allows it to remember the previous settings when you shut the truck off. So on every key cycle, it'll start back up where it was shut off at. We do have the ability to do a turbo timer in this application. There is a notification that will pop up if you have one of our Insight CTS3 monitors. You do need to make sure that that Insight is set up to display your EGT1 PID so that this turbo timer feature will function correctly. If you don't have an Insight, you can just ignore this notification altogether. But this allows you to go in and set your turbo timer. You can base it off of a time threshold or off of an EGT threshold by selecting these options down here. We've got EGT, time, and then we can actually go off of both. So we're going to go off of EGT. We want to set it at, say, 400 degrees. So when we shut the truck off, the EZX module will keep the engine idling until it gets down to this 400 degree EGT sensor. So some guys like to do this based off of a time, so we can let it run for 1 minute, 2 minutes, whatever it might be. After you've shut the truck off and walked away, it's going to keep idling till you get to that set time on the turbo timer to make sure that everything gets down to a safe temperature. The other nice feature with that turbo timer is that it will display the EGTs across the top of this factory display. So when you shut the truck off, it will start showing you that temperature. If you aren't running an Insight monitor, you can see it across your factory display. We have the ability to go in and set our max cruise. So in some of these applications, we have the ability to change the cruise control. The factory application, I believe, sets it at 85 miles an hour. You can go in and change this max cruise all the way up to 95 miles an hour. Or you can go down as low as 40 miles an hour, so the cruise control will only allow you to engage it at that set mile per hour. We have the ability to run our fog beams when our high beams are turned on. So normally when you go convert to your high beams, the fog beams turn off. By enabling this so that it lights up, it will allow you to keep the fog beams on with your high beams. Our ECT Protect is basically just engine cold protection. So with our EZX module installed, you can actually enable this feature so that the EZX will not start adding power through the module itself until your engine coolant temperature gets up to a safe operating temperature. So it's just a safety feature that's built into the EZX. Also with the display gear, now this is a feature that some guys that do a lot of towing like to have. Normally in this Ram application, you can only see your gear that you're in when you're running in manual mode. But with the EZX, we're able to change the settings in the factory display. So by enabling our display gear, we can then go into our main menu and scroll through and turn on that gear selection so that it shows you your gears all the time, whether you're in the standard drive mode or in manual mode, so we can see what gear the transmission is in at all time. As long as this is turned on, you'll be able to go into your factory menu settings on the dash and enable that gear display on the factory dash as well. We have the ability to do a manual DPF regen, and then we can also go into our diagnostics where we can read and clear trouble codes. And then we can also check our emissions readiness status. So if you live in a state that does emissions testing every year, you can actually go in and check to make sure that all of your emissions settings, the readiness monitors, are set so that you can have a successful test done for your emissions testing in your state or wherever it might be. We do have the option on our read and clear trouble codes that if you do have a trouble code that pops up, it'll display that code and tell you what it is, and then it'll also give you a link that will go to the internet and actually give you a description of what would cause that code, and help you with some diagnostics on making sure you can get to the bottom of it and get it repaired. So there is some good diagnostic features in the device. We can go back into our main menu. Again, our hamburger menu gives us the information on the device itself. We also have a link that goes directly to our Edge Products web store. and then there's also a link so that we can get to our website and get some other instructional videos, or you can download the PDF instructions for the installation of the device. So with the product installed in the truck, we can go out and drive it. You can use those power level controls that are on the steering wheel to turn the power level up and down. Again, if you want to fine-tune that driving experience, you can do all of that through the app. So if you want to learn more about the product, make sure you visit edgeproducts.com or check out our YouTube and social media channels. Let us know if you have any questions, and please make sure you give us some feedback on what your thoughts are on the product. We hope you enjoy it.